WILDR Folks, Alicia here. If you are going out for some hikes this weekend or this summer and you want a couple tips and tricks to feel less sore and have more energy on the trail, then this is the video for you. Over the years, I've had clients tell me that some of these exercises I give them in the gym to use on the trails make them feel like they're in the ministry of silly walks. And the reason is some of these silly walks, when done on your hike, can actually help shift the load to different muscles, can help you feel less tired, can help you pace yourself better when you're on the trail. So today I am giving you all of my silly walks.
But before we dive in, let me introduce myself.
My name is Alicia Williams. I own WILDR Fitness. We help people get ready for outdoor adventures of all kinds. In fact, I'm on my way to empowering 100,000 adventures outside. Now, I do this through my 8-week pre-hike program, 8-week pre-ski program, but not all of these tips came from my background in kinesiology and biomechanics. In fact, some of these tips came from me running ultra marathons and really going too hard out of the start gate, and from doing overnight trips where I had to carry a friend's pack and my own. So all of a sudden I had 2 overnight packs on. And believe it or not, a couple of these tips actually came from a few years ago when I paddled 1,000 miles of the Yukon River in 8 days. So without further ado, let's dive into it. And great news to start the video out with, these are steps you could use on a hike tomorrow and they'll help you. Now this first step is one that I've actually gotten a lot of virality from on a couple of videos I've posted on social media, and it is called the rest step. I did not invent it. It has been used by mountaineers for as long as I can see in the literature. Essentially, a rest step is resting on a straight leg instead of trying to not stop or trying to rest on bent legs and using muscular support. Now you can imagine how this was initially developed when mountaineers were kicking steps into steep snow.
And by resting on a straight leg, you're letting your skeleton do the work. So as I take a step forward, I'm resting on this leg and this leg has no weight.
Now that pause also does something else. It slows you down
and allows you to pace yourself so that you are using your aerobic system instead of your anaerobic system to get up those hills.
Now there's nothing wrong with moving quicker for some periods of time, but if you're on a really steep pitch and you need to keep moving,
then the rest step can really make every step less taxing.
And the second step of the day is actually one that I learned from this paddling experience that I was telling you guys about. And this was a race. So we were out on the water for 16 hours a day. We were trying to move as much as we could while using the current to help us. And a huge shout out to Steve. He was our paddling coach and mentor. He was in the boat with me and taught me how to actually do a proper endurance canoe stroke. But beyond that, he shared this tip, which I have applied to my time out on the trails, as well as that time on the river. So he taught us to do this thing called a 10-second or 10-stroke pickup. Essentially, for 10 seconds, you double your cadence or try to double your cadence without necessarily increasing your speed, although you might. And what that 10 seconds of picking up your feet if you're on the trail or paddling faster if you are in the current does is it kind of just changes the neural stimulus to your brain. You're like used to plodding along at a specific speed, and this 10-second reset can perk you up. Now, I do not know the why of this. I do not know if it's because you're giving your brain a new stimulus or if it's because all of a sudden you're getting your muscles to contract more quickly, but 10-second or 10-step segments where we try and go a little bit faster while picking our feet up in a safe place where we can do this properly will make the load of going at your regular speed feel easier. And that's exactly what this next step does as well. This is one that applies specifically to the trails, and that is increasing your step height for 10 steps. Now this one can look silly. I won't lie to you. But what it does is brings your joints through a more full range of motion, because hiking is a small percentage of the range of motion each of our joints can actually do. And so at the end of the day, we might feel stiff because we've only worked through that middle third of our range of motion for each joint or muscle. And so by increasing your step height, you can move through a bigger range of motion. I find it kind of like stretches you out, makes you feel good. And then at the end of the day, you're less stiff and contracted. And that same thing applies to this next option, which is 10 long steps. Again, as with all these, do them in a safe place. But you are going to be taking longer steps than normal. And you're doing that to stretch everything out, to do a little reset of your body's proprioception, its knowledge of where it is in space.
You can even go as far as to turn them into lunge steps. Now this may seem counterintuitive because lunges are harder, but if you know how to do a lunge and you've practiced at home, then this can really stretch out our hip flexors, which are working overtime when we're hiking.
I don't know if this works at the brain or works at the muscle or works somewhere in between, but I have found it is incredibly helpful if you're implementing it when you start to get tired on the trail. And I maybe saved the best and silliest step for last, but these are your butt squeeze steps. Why do they work? Well, your glutes are your most powerful muscle complex in your entire body. If you're not using them when you are hiking, you're like cutting your power in half, and you're increasing the likelihood of experiencing knee pain later in your hike. So by doing short segments where you are squeezing your butt on each step, I usually do this for like a minute when I'm out on the trail, you are stretching out your hip flexors, you are finding more hip extension and standing up taller as you hike, and you're using those big muscles to help you go forward. And what you'll find is this cues you to remember to do it not as hard, but to use your glutes for each step after. You'll notice all of these steps slightly change your movement pattern, and that reduction in repetition can help you kind of spread out the load to different parts of your body. And that's where this actual last step, this bonus step, comes in. And it's because it's specific for people who are using poles. If you don't use poles, I mean, just think about adding them to your arsenal if it makes sense for the terrain you're on, because mountain guides call these longevity sticks for a reason. They help share the load of the trail between your upper and lower body, which is helpful because when you're going downhill, you can experience as much as 8 times your body weight through your joints. So spreading it out to different joints and muscles can be helpful for a long day. But if you have those poles, you can try adjusting the height up or down for periods of time, or hiking without them and then reintroducing them for periods of time, because again, this is going to change where and how you are propelling yourself down the trail, leading to less fatigue in specific places over the course of the day. And if there's a silly walk that I forgot, I would love for you to list it in the comments below and let me know where you are getting ready to hike this summer. If you're interested in working with me to have the best summer of your life, then check the link in the description below. We've got free and paid options for you to get started.
All right, I hope you have a wilder day, and we'll talk to you soon.